One of the major green flags that you had was just, allowing me to grow, encouraging me to get better. I've been in relationships in the past where, you would get yelled and screamed at for something that you did wrong. However, once you improved upon that, they never let it go. It's like they would just keep hammering you with it. And it's like, okay, well, if I fix this even up to your satisfaction, then I don't want to continually hear about it. Because honestly, there's other things that I do wrong. You can move on to some of those.
Hey, welcome to our 30th episode of Love, Growth, and Narratives. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Frederick.
And this week, we are getting back to talking about love. We've had a heavy couple of weeks, understandably, but we wanted to get back to something kind of fun this week. So we're going back and we're going to be talking about love today. We're going to be talking about red and green flags that we have personally and how that impacts like some of the choices we make when it came to choosing each other.
Yeah. And we want to give you some ideas as to some that you may want to consider. But also, stay tuned till the end of this podcast because I have a special message, a bit of a Mea Culpa. So you want to stay tuned for that, especially if you don't know what a Mea Culpa is. Please stay tuned for that. And so with that said, are we ready to get started?
Yes, we are ready to get started.
All right, we're back. So, I've seen a lot of, podcasts and they talk about the red flags and the green flags, but they're pointing outwards. They're looking at what they don't want to see from others. But at least in the beginning, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we had to work on within ourselves in terms of red flags, and so like for me, I had a habit. And you may not know anything about this. I had a habit of coming in hot, So, I get into a relationship, I start to like somebody, and I kind of pour into them. And, I'm in a hurry to show value. But the problem is that I'm going at a pace that is just not sustainable long term. And so what it does is it sets up resentment because, whoever I would be dating it would get used to being, treated and a certain way. And then over time, it would kind of fall off into what I was really like. And then, it didn't work out well.
So you mean to tell me you're really not like this? That things are going to get... What are you saying here?
Well, in this many years, and I actually am.
Okay.
This is who I am. This is who I am. But I know in the beginning, because someone I know who shall remain nameless accused me of love bombing.
Oh, wow. That's not
nice. Who was that?
I'm not sure. Me?
Yeah. I think her name rhymed with Riffany or something like that. Yeah. So, but yeah, she accused me of love bombing because I did tend to come in hot, and that was something that I really had to work on. Another one was, I wasn't comfortable with a lot of uncomfortable conversations. And so when things would get a little bit too tense, I would, okay, just trying to get out of it instead of taking the time to go through the reps to actually resolve the issue. And the problem is that not only did I not get resolution, but I made the other person feel like I was trivializing their feelings and their thoughts and everything. And so that's something that you didn't get a chance to see because it was something that I was determined to work on and have the conversation and go all the way through it until it was complete. So that was, those were just two of them. I'm sure that, anyone who's dated me in the past could probably come up with some more, but those were two of the big ones. What about you?
Well, the red flag about coming in hot, we have been taught to believe that's a red flag if a man is just pouring it on, he's trying to get somewhere and all of that. But also sincere men who consistently want you and want to court you and want marriage, they kind of do that as well. So
do it kind of naturally.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So knowing the difference, like for me, I had to learn the difference between someone who's just doing it temporarily and trusting that you were doing it for the long term. You said you were, and all your actions lined up. So that was very helpful.
Yeah.
But typically that might be a red flag. Someone just like, here's the keys to my car, my house, my this, my that, which all you did, right? And so
yeah, but you actually were taking care of me after a surgery after the LA marathon.
Still,
so yeah, you know.
For me, I think some of my own personal red flags was trying to change the person that I was with. That was huge. I thought I'm upgrading them or helping them out to be better, you know, emotionally in all kinds of ways. But really, it was just a fight because that's not what they wanted.
Right.
You know, they weren't really trying to better themselves, and it was just causing a clash. So I really learned that quickly. Like when someone shows you who you are and you don't necessarily care for it, that's not a signal to make them better. It's a signal to like,
it's really not.
Hop out, you know, or accept it, you know?
Yeah.
Another red flag that I think I've had is just, I don't know if this is a red flag, but I guess it could be for some men. I think in your case, you were concerned about this. Like I'm just used to doing things myself and getting things done. And so now, being comfortable enough to rely on another person, that's huge. You know, again, it takes a certain kind of person for me to feel like I can rely on them. I'm going to have some certain expectations. So I don't think there's a whole lot of people, a whole lot of men that I'm like, I'm going to rely on you fully and put some really important things into your hands. But that was something I had to learn how to do and trust myself, because I didn't trust myself to choose someone who wasn't going to hurt me deeply, which can still happen. But sometimes you can see that up front, you know what I mean? Like, and there are red flags, and I just kind of ignored it because I thought I'm going to change you and, you know, so on. So I did have some red flags, and there's probably more that I don't, you know, like you said, and other people have different ideas.
Yeah. And one of the things you talked about actually was one of my red flags was being in a relationship where I didn't feel like a team, where it was still, you do this and I'll do that. And I don't like it that way. I like when we're together, if you have a problem, that means we have a problem, and vice versa. And so it's a green flag that you came with that, that, you know, we were able to get that teamwork going, you know, really quickly.
Yes. And I also feel that that's a green flag for me, that someone wants to do that. There isn't a divide based on gender or whatever else. It's like, this is what needs to be done, and let's get it done. You know, sometimes it might fall more on you, sometimes it might fall on me, but we pay attention to each other's ebbs and flows. Like, when do we need to jump in? I feel like that's a huge green flag for me. Yeah. You know, because I'm not down with you're always gonna blah, blah, blah. I mean, there might be certain things that we do end up always doing, but it's not based on our gender or anything. It's just based on maybe what we like to do, or maybe what needs to be done in the moment, or, you know, our time, your home, you know, because you work from home. So some things that you can get started before I even get here.
Yeah, why not?
Right. So I love that about you. And that's a total green flag. You know, some more green flags was just that you're so kind to me, and you care about me, and you listen. Another red flag of mine was that I was not as vulnerable, not in the ways that really matter. I think I was vulnerable enough to let somebody hurt me, but not vulnerable enough to share certain parts of myself. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. And you make it really easy because you introduced me to Brene Brown last time I said something else. Brene Brown. And, you know, reading or listening to her information about being vulnerable was really helpful. I mean, you teach me. That's a red flag. Like, I learn a lot from you, and that's a huge green flag. Not a red flag. It's a green flag to, like, learn something from someone, not you trying to tell me what to do or own me or think you're above me in any way. You're just like, you do know certain things that I don't know. I know things you don't know, and we just kind of, you know, help each other with that. So that's a green flag for me. Yeah, to just be in a relationship like that. It's huge.
Well, you know, one of the major green flags that you had was just, you know, allowing me to grow, encouraging me to get better. I've been in relationships in the past where, you know, you would get yelled and screamed at for something that you did wrong. However, once you improved upon that, they never let it go. It's like they would just keep hammering you with it. And it's like, okay, well, if I fix this even up to your satisfaction, then I don't want to continually hear about it. Because honestly, there's other things that I do wrong. You can move on to some of those. You can, this one that I fixed, let's move on to some of the new ones. But yeah, that used to frustrate me, was that I would work hard on something that the person I was with said that I was doing wrong, something that I also agreed that I was doing wrong. And I'm trying to put in the work, but they just constantly hammer you with what you used to do.
Right.
And I can't deal with that.
Right. Absolutely.
And there was another red flag. You didn't have this, thank goodness. But this is a huge one for me, and it's about accountability. And it's about I know some people with their egos can't apologize for anything and can't admit that they were wrong. But you will have some people that, just to get the conversation over with, they'll do what I call a non-apology apology,
right,
where they'll say, I'm sorry if I ever did anything that offended you, I'm sorry. That is not an apology.
Right.
You might as well just keep that to yourself. It's not an apology. An apology is, I'm sorry I did this. I should not have. I will be better.
Right.
That's an apology.
Right.
And then like I used to hear from Charlemagne the God all the time, was the best apology is change behavior. And I absolutely agree with that. But just those types of things, just being honest, being vulnerable, those were huge green flags that I got from you. That we could both just be vulnerable together. I think that's awesome. Right.
Which is a green flag coming from you, being vulnerable, because sometimes men have a difficult time with that because of the way they're socialized, or they're not comfortable. They've tried it before and they've been hurt. But you made it a point, like, if we can't do this, how are we going to really truly get close? Yeah. And so that was huge that you initiated that thought process. I really appreciate. I mean, yes, I naturally feel like I had that thought process. Yeah. But the fact that you did, that's a huge green flag to me in a man.
Yeah.
Another huge green flag, and this sounds so simple, but it's really not, that not only are you attracted to women, but you like them. Like the way you speak about them, the way you are around them, the way you treat them. There's like none of that disrespect, none of that, oh boy, locker room talk. Like you just don't engage in it. No. And that's huge. I mean, that's not easy to find.
Well, you've met my mama, so so that makes perfect sense why I'm this way. Right. I was raised by Rachel Cook, and to a certain extent by Gretchen and Elon Cook, my sisters, and they had standards, and so it was there was never a thought to that. Right. And my father wasn't like that. So he also modeled that behavior. So it was just it wasn't a thing.
Right.
So but that's I could say that's really nurture. It may have been nature, but a lot of that was nurture. But in terms of the vulnerability, that was something that I came upon really late in life. And I just realized that there is no true connection without vulnerability. And so, although I've been vulnerable in the past, and sometimes it has hurt me, you can really get hurt when you're vulnerable and someone doesn't take it the right way. And for me, it's just like, well, but this is all I can do.
Right.
Because if I'm not, then, and what it also brings up is being able to move past, the bad experiences of the past. I've been in relationships where I was constantly punished for what the last guy did. And I'm like, whoa, right. I didn't sign up for that, and I'm not going to do it. I wouldn't do that to someone else.
Right.
And it's one thing if you say, look, so here's some residue from past relationships. I know it's not right to push this on to you, but I'm working on getting better. Now, if someone says something like that, I'm cool. because I get it. We all have stuff that happened in the past that that we're working on.
Right. Get a little triggered here and
right.
there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I appreciate that. But because this has happened in the past, that gives you license to treat me like this in the future.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to do that with the next guy, because
Right.
I can't get in for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of it between red flags and green flags. Do you have any more?
I do. Some of them are a little, funnier, but I think it's a red flag that you do not eat the meat off of a chicken wing. You leave so much of it there. There is no point of eating the chicken wing.
Well, so first off, I prefer breasts and thighs, because I like the big pieces of meat. It was just like growing up, my father used to get crabs every week, and he hated when I ate crabs because I love crab meat, but I don't like doing all the work. And you sitting there and you're eating crab legs for the longest time, and you end up filling up on whatever you're drinking, and it's just kind of like, what's the point? Yes, I am not gonna take every little morsel of meat and try to get something out of that. It doesn't work for me. I grab the large pieces, and then I let someone else do what they want to with the rest.
You're so funny.
So that's, I'm sorry. I have to stand on that one. And red flag or not, I may have to die on that hill.
There's a couple of movies that you haven't seen, but I remember we had a day where we just sat there and watched. What was it? My best man,
best man's wedding or something like that. Yeah.
That's a red flag that I don't remember the name of it. But we sat there and watched all three because you hadn't seen any of them, and you actually enjoyed it, didn't you? Yeah. These are some like little funny red flags. Freddie and I were always teasing each other about our black cards, but
yeah, but this also brings up one of the other, red flags that I had was, I'm a quirky guy. I am. I can't help. I don't even want to help that. But a lot of women are turned off by my quirks. And you are a quirky woman, and I love that about you. I love your quirks. I wait for them, and I just enjoy them. But not everybody can deal with that.
Right.
They want this person to be this model of manhood or womanhood that they envision, and that's it. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just not that guy.
Right. No, I like that we're able to be ourselves and be awkward. I feel comfortable because I've been called all kinds of names, and people had all kinds of expectations for who I would marry based on my quirkiness. You know. But, and they weren't related to another person being quirky, but like related to their skin color and all this different stuff. People just say anything. But, I enjoy that we have that together. So that's definitely a green flag for me, and a green flag that even though we don't have a ton of the same things that we like to do, we do do some of the things that the other person wants to do. And so that's a green flag because it would be a red flag for me to be married to someone, let's say, who doesn't like to travel. And then I have to travel by myself or with my girlfriends, and I can never travel with my spouse. I mean, they may not be, may not want to travel as much as I do, but to have to do something that you love to do and never be able to do it with your spouse, not that you shouldn't have separate things, but I think it's important to tap into each other's interests.
Yeah, and I just enjoy being with you, so that makes it that much easier. So it's, so yeah, I mean, we all have things like that. Another red flag, and I'm sorry to keep bringing up red flags because I know I just earlier was talking about how everybody's, pointing at everybody else. But another red flag I had to do with, I've dated, young ladies that were heavily religious, which doesn't bother me at all. I'm not. I'm not at all. And I'm not offended by someone being religious, and I hope they're not offended by me not. But if you are, then that's fine. But otherwise, then we have to figure out how we can respect each other's belief systems and values,
Right.
and be fine with it.
Right.
And if that means I gotta, go to church with you here and there, that's fine. That doesn't bother me. But I do need to ensure that my beliefs are respected. Don't have to be agreed upon,
Right.
but respected.
Right.
And in turn, I will respect yours.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Some people, that's a red flag for them
That's
that
fine.
they couldn't deal with,
Right.
but it's not an issue for us.
I'm not offended at all. If someone says, well, the fact that you're not a religious person, I can't date, that's fine. You say that right off the bat,
Right.
no problem at all.
Right,
I
right.
get it. I respect it. But if you go down the road with me and then poke and prod me to start thinking your way, then that's going to be a problem.
Right. That
It
same
is.
for me. Just someone having a belief system that is so far off from mine would be a little bit challenging, just because I'm so just rooted in my morals and all of that kind of stuff. So that would be a challenge. But the fact that the person would be open to listening or engaging or just me having a conversation, not shutting me down, because that's a red flag, being shut down. I've dated someone who's like shut down, ignore, won't return calls, that kind of stuff, you know.
That's crazy.
Just, I need space and time and all this other stuff, and refuses to talk things through. That's a huge red flag. You know? So.
Yeah, no, I need space, but I need space with you.
Yeah.
I want you in my space.
Right.
I may need space from the world, but I don't need space from you. So that's not an issue.
Right. And another green flag for me is when, of course, being older, the likelihood of someone having a child who may not be fully an adult is, very common. And so a big thing for me was how involved that person is, that guy is in his child's life. Because I hear a lot of people blaming the mother about why they can't see him and don't see them, and on and on and on. But in your case, you fought. You went to court, you fought hard battle for, to have full custody of your child. Like, that's a super green flag for me, that you would do that. And, that's a big plus for me.
Well, to be honest with you, it's probably kind of selfish on my part, because I like all my kids. I mean, I had, my two older ones, they're grown and still live on the East Coast, but I like my kids. I want to be around them. I want to be a part of their life. I want to help to raise them. And I also learn a lot from them. So it's not just one way learning, especially with Joseph,
right?
With his level of emotional intelligence, he's taught me all kind of things. So we've kind of grown together, but I like that. And it's no disrespect to my ex-wife at all, but I really wanted to be there with my son.
Yeah.
And I love having him around. He's a special guy.
Yes, he is.
But I also, a green flag is, when we met, it wasn't well, that's your kid, you figure it out,
Right.
Because, being a parent, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody else, but I know I miss a lot of things. I know I have blind spots. And so I need someone who's willing to step in and say, hey, you really let him get away with this. Or conversely, you were too hard on him about this. And what that forces me to do is just really think about my interactions with my son, because it is very important that we have the correct interactions. I'm not trying to be friends with him, but I want him to know how to talk to people and how to have civil discourse. And that's why I love when he disagrees with me and we can actually have a civil conversation without either one of us getting upset.
Right.
And I love how you actually help that along. You actually, sometimes when I would really get upset with them, you would follow me into the room and be like, yeah, you shouldn't have said that. That was too much. And then I got to go and I got to apologize. Joseph, you know what? I'm sorry. I got to be better and let's figure this out. And I think that one of the major reasons why Joseph and I are as close as we are now is because of you. I know the reason why he's doing so well in school is because of you. That's an easy one. But the reason why I've improved as a father has been largely because of your guidance.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it, because being a step parent
It's hard.
It's a challenge,
Yes.
right? And it's challenging because I've also had I loosely call this person a step parent, but my mom's ex-husband, and I know what it feels like when somebody comes in and they're kind of taking space away from you, time, and you still, I mean, his mom, he still talks to his mom, so it's
Yes.
not like, she's gone forever, and so
Right.
just that careful dance of not overstepping, is really hard. But the fact that you allow me to say so much and be so much a part of it, which is a green flag, because I've heard some horror stories about, blended families. And so it's nice that we don't have that issue in our home.
Well, I think he also likes you more than he likes me. So that's probably
Not more.
that's probably a big part of it. But yeah, the fact that, there are things that I want to do in terms of improving myself. And some of it is trial and error. I don't have all this stuff figured out. And me being able to express that to you, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. I'm not sure how well it's going to work out, but I need to improve here.
Right.
And how you encourage me and you cheer me on and you take part in it, which is critical. And I've been in too many relationships where it's you figure it out and you let me know once you figured it out, and then I will decide if I'm satisfied. It's like, all right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But another red flag of mine was how much time the person would be able to spend with me, right?
Yeah.
So I knew that I didn't want someone who had a career that had them working many hours, whether they're a doctor, their own business, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, have work in the graveyard shift, all that. I knew that I needed somebody who has hours similar to mine. So when I'm off, they're off. And there's a lot of freedom there. Now, this is more than I could have ever asked for. The fact that you work from home and you don't have a job where you have to sit for 8 hours at a computer, you have a lot of freedom to take your meetings wherever and still like support with my mom, or even come and volunteer with me. That is like icing on the cake. Like, I love it. It's so perfect for me.
Yeah.
Because I knew I didn't want to be with someone and still feel like alone because they're always working.
Yeah.
And so that was something I always talked about all the time. So I would take that over. I mean, financially we're good, which is a great thing, but that wasn't something at the top of my list. Like, more so I wanted that person to be a good person and have time to spend with me. And so I got so much more than that. So yay.
No, I appreciate so much, one of the other things, and it kind of, it can have a religious angle to it, was I've had, relationships in the past where it was, you're the man, you're in charge, you lead everything, and then, come tell me what you decided. I'm like, whoa, I don't know everything. I can't, I can lead the things where I feel like I have a better knowledge or I'm in a better position to make the decision.
Right.
Okay, fine, I'll do that.
Right.
But, I have no interest in being this, I'm the man, I do everything, and you woman, you get in the kitchen. It's not me. And, for people who that is, that's fine. That's do what you do, but it's not me. I'm just, that's not the way I was built.
Right. Which works out perfectly, because that's not me.
Yeah, I know.
Right? I didn't work this hard and do all of the things that I've done my whole life to be like, all of a sudden my brain doesn't work as well as someone else's. No. But I do appreciate that there's things that you're so much better at and you can take the lead on. And then there's things that I'm good at and I take the lead on, and it just works out. And there's things that we definitely just plan together. Like I could not deal with someone, a red flag, as soon as someone starts talking about all that gender stuff and masculine and, feminine, and you be soft and submissive and protector and I mean, we would protect each other, right?
Yes.
We're prepared to do that. We're prepared
Absolutely.
to provide for each other. We do provide for each other, like, and to nurture each other and submit to each other and lead each other. Like, this
Yes.
is something we do, you know, when it's fitted, when we need to in different areas. It's not like, you know, a position that we hold,
Yes.
you know, for life. So
Yeah, and that, honestly, that's another green flag for you, is that you are a protector. You know, I'm a protector as well, but it's not because I'm a man. I'm a protector because that's what I choose to do. You know, and so there are times when I might not be home, or something else could be happening, and the fact that you're willing to step up and do what needs to be done, I think that's important. There again, I'm not saying that if you have the type of relationship where the man does all the protecting and the woman doesn't, I that's what you do.
right.
But for me, I love to have someone who's willing to step up and get their hands dirty.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've had to do it my whole life, so why would I
Yeah.
all of a sudden stop? But of course, it's a little bit different. Like if we hear noise out there, you don't want me to go out there, but I've been going out to the noise for how many years? But
Yeah.
now, you know, there's somebody else there, and so if we do have to both attack it, we do it with a strategy.
Yes.
But you know, there isn't. I appreciate that. That is a green flag to me, that you recognize that I too can protect and will
Absolutely.
protect. Like it's
Absolutely.
very natural for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that I want to sit and fight grown men or anything, but I'm also not going to cower in the corner, because
Right.
I it's just not something I had done since childhood. I couldn't.
Yeah.
So now it's in me. So and I appreciate that you appreciate that and don't attach, you know, masculine
hmm
attributes to me, because I do that, you know.
No, I don't.
Because
I
I've
don't.
heard that you acting like a man, and you know, you
Yeah,
want to be the
and
man,
I don't.
and no,
I don't.
no,
I
wanna
don't
be a
get
man.
that, to be honest with
Yeah.
you, because, like I said, I was raised by Rachel Cook, and she would jump in front of anything
Yeah.
for her kids.
Yeah,
You know,
as
she
would most
exactly,
women, right?
exactly.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, so I wasn't raised thinking that the man had to do all of the protecting. You know, my father he is,
Yeah.
you know, a protector,
Right.
but he was a protector alongside my mother. You know, my mother, yeah, she would, you know, sometimes my father had to hold my mother back. So, you know, so yeah, we're not going to talk about that with, you know, but there was a few situations there was like, whoa, you know, but yeah, you know, so I appreciate, you know, a woman who is willing to do what needs to be done, because the way things happen in this world, you just never know. You know, I may not be home, and knowing that you can handle yourself helps me to feel a little bit more comfortable.
Right.
Not that I want you to have to show it.
Right.
But,
Exactly.
you know,
Same here. Right. Yeah.
but it's
right.
it's wonderful. And so, you know, the whole thing with the red flags and the green flags, you know, it's fine, but I know that these things also kind of evolve
right.
over time, because I know that I had red flags in relationships when I was in my 20s. That now I look back on like, yeah, that was pretty stupid.
Right.
But,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, but, you know, of course I was in my 20s, you know, but yeah, these things kind of change over time. But the other thing, and you and I have talked about this, is there are some things that we think of as red flags, and they're more so kind of on the yellow side.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like they're nice to have,
Right.
but then you get in a relationship where you see such extreme value in a person, and some of those little trivial red or yellow flags,
Yeah.
and they tend to just kind of fall off.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, so you also have to be realistic, because thinking that, you know, you have this thought process of a person, of the perfect mate, and that someone is out there with all this perfection, it doesn't exist. And guess why? Because you're not perfect either.
Right. Right. Exactly.
You know, I mean, I know I'm far from perfect. How can I expect perfection? But yeah, there are certain things in a relationship that I absolutely cannot do without. And that list has changed over the years. And it's probably a shorter list now than it was back then because I had all these crazy ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, so I think it's good to talk about these things. And do you have anything else that you wanted to discuss before I get into the final topic?
No, I think you should go into that, and I'll add in a little sprinkle in there as well.
Okay. Well, so now I'm going to turn from you and I'm going to look straight at the camera here. Because back in episode 7, we had a podcast where we talked about the difference in federal powers and presidential powers and state and local and where you should be spending your time and thoughts, more so closer to home and less so less so thinking about who the president is. And in the course of doing that, I got hyperbolic and I was just, I overstated, or excuse me, understated presidential powers. And with the recent developments and stuff that's come out of the White House has shown that I severely understated presidential powers, even though I don't think that what's going on right now is sustainable long term because of a whole lot of reasons. I do have to admit that I understated what the president can and can't do domestically. But luckily, after making those statements and then with the current situation, my wife and some good friends of mine like Devon, kind of reached out and said, hey, you kind of took that too far. And I appreciate the fact that I had people come up to me who disagreed with me or maybe agreed to a certain level, but just not to the level that I was speaking, and said, hey, you need to pull that back because you went too far. And so I have to own that and I have to apologize for going too far. And that's just one of those things where I will get better. I know that, I can be a very kind of emotional speaker. And when I want to get the point across, I do tend to use hyperbolic language, which I'm really working on getting out of my thought process. But until I do, then I'm going to have to sit here and apologize and just continue to work on getting better.
Yeah, and I think in good faith, what you were saying is still valid, that we need to really pay attention to local as well, because that impacts us day to day. But when you're dealing with someone who is making really rash decisions, even though they may not stick, there's judges who are blocking it or overturning it and all of that. It's still doing damage.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's definitely damaging us socially.
Yes.
And so that's something to keep in mind. Like, I think this is a very unique situation. We may not have.
Yes. Hopefully we will never see a situation like this again.
Ever. But it is true that you still need to really pay attention to your local elections, because I know some people don't even involve themselves in that at all.
Yeah.
But definitely who sits up there and the things that come out of their mouth.
Yes.
It can be, very some people don't understand how everything works, and it causes a ton of trauma.
Yes.
And it's just totally unnecessary. I think people are on edge, and, people are joking about how January felt like it was 95 days long.
Right.
And so there's some truth to that. Like things are being stretched out and whatnot because of, certain things that are going on. So, so I appreciate you coming back and saying that, because I think we've had like lengthy conversations
absolutely
about that, because I really felt it, make a huge difference. And whoever it is, right? If it's Republican or Democrat, but well,
honestly, the message for me is in my passion not to create exaggerations out of my passion. You know, I feel really passionate about, you know, really concentrating on state and local issues because those are the issues that impact you the most. But I also have to create space for what's going on in the federal government right now and what's going on, what's coming out of the White House these days. And so that's a lesson for me that I will take on and I will work on getting better.
Okay. Thank you for going back on that. We're always willing to, you know, reflect on something that we've said and, or stand by something that we said. So
yeah,
continue to, you know, give us that feedback, you know, good faith feedback. There was a couple of people who gave some feedback like, what are you saying? What are you even talking about?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's not helpful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you have good faith criticism, that's great. Or if you just have something you want to add, something you want to see. I know there's a couple of people that we want to address things that they've, you know, questions they've asked us and things like that in podcasts coming forward. But yeah, we appreciate you, Freddie, for doing that. And that's a green flag in you, my brother. That's a green flag in you.
But it doesn't hurt my ego to admit that I'm wrong, realize that I'm wrong, and work on it. Because my ego is about learning. My ego is about constantly getting better. Right. And if I get better because you pulled me to the side and straightened me out, I'm still getting better. Right. I'm taking the W. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
And so hey, you know, anything that I say out there that you disagree with or you feel like I exaggerated, by all means, you know, bring that up. And for me, I just get better. Yeah. So, you know, that's fine.
Right.
I'm okay being wrong. I'm not okay staying wrong. So
yeah, right. So as we wrap this up, one thing I do want to say is Happy Black History Month.
Yes.
I am excited about it because I'm always learning something new every year. So I'm grateful for this time. You know, I wish we didn't need it, but we do. And so I'm learning something constantly. You know, keep in mind that you know, this is a month where there's a lot of little holidays, but those are days and this is a month.
Yes.
There's a reason for that. And so, you know, I just want the focus to be in the right place. Like learn something. Just learn something about someone new or more, learn deeply about someone else, you know, that you've been hearing about in the past, but maybe you didn't get the whole story. Do some research, and that's a green flag in my book when you do that.
And anyone who has a history, who has an issue with Black History Month, I'm with you. Let's teach real history from the beginning. And that way we won't even need it. Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
So if we're willing to rewrite the history books and give a more comprehensive history that shows all of the people who impacted the history of this country, I'm cool with getting rid of Black History Month. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. We won't need any of them if we're able to do that. But
absolutely.
Until then, happy Black History Month.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up, and so for this 30th episode of Love, Growth, and Narratives, I'm Frederick,
and I'm Tiffany.
Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you next week.